Hello everyone, how are you doing? Let's see if I can work with the setup. Hello, hello. Hello to Hero Across the Sky. Can I show this on the stream? Oh, this one doesn't let me do that. That's interesting. As usual, I'm trying other ways. Each time I'm trying to stream, I'm never finding a consistent way to do this. The excitement is real from Hero Across the Sky. So hey everyone, I'm Eyal. Some of you know me from my music, some of you know me from Modalics or other music coding endeavors. Hello to Yolanda, some Arathina. Definitely one of the pillar points of the chat, and that is true. Some people know me from the Audio Programmer Discord, where I am spending big chunks of my day talking about code and discussing audio coding with other audio programmers, such as Yolanda here. Hello, Soul. Soul Avery. What a great name. Deep name. Love it. Avery. Soul Avery. Did I say this correct? Soul Avery. It's really wrong to let me speak live, unfiltered English. I can barely speak English as it is. So it's I'm not sure, it's sort of the privileges of this modern era. Anyway, I'm going to mute this music here, and I'm just going to start jamming just a little bit just to get in the zone. Hopefully this nice piano sound go through. Let's see that I know how to use everything here. It's really weird. Like, I can see the chat, but from this little... Can I do this? Let's see what's going to happen if I do this. So it is, okay, so I guess it is Soul Avery. All right. Amazing. Let's see if I can go back here, or maybe I can do this. Here we go. right. How's everybody doing? Yeah. Yeah. So what do I want to do today? I had a few thoughts. What I would be doing today is I want to start adding a few MIDI plugins to Plugin Buddy. There's a few built-in ones. One recent one that was added recently is the Velocity Randomizer. This was added a few days ago. And really a big reason why we made Plugin Buddy was that so we can create these, this free platform for MIDI processing. Because apparently MIDI processing is actually a difficult problem for DAWs. It's kind of a mess. So we wanted to do something where, you load your instrument, like here it's the piano instrument, and then you also load the chain of MIDI effects and a few audio effects. So I think I'm going to talk specifically about MIDI effects, and I'm going to start. Hopefully, we can finish more than a few. Some will be trivial, like maybe some will be a bit more complicated. I thought we'll start with something like a MIDI filter that's been requested recently on the YouTube comments. Okay, so let's open the code and refresh my memory. Hey, I was literally thinking like, where are my glasses? Oh, I'm wearing them. I still have them. Okay, good. So I have my glasses. I can see. Let's open CLion, which is my IDE, where I write my code in. The nice thing about MIDI plugins, at least the ones we're going to do today, hopefully, is that there's a really funny comment there. Needs an Easter egg. We're on Windows. Delete System32 if you play a certain sequence of notes. Yes, we probably should do that. We probably should make Plugin Buddy a virus. We've had that thought, or Lubianiker, my partner in Modalix, and I, when we made in the past, we made a plugin called Waves Bass Slapper that does slap bass, and we kept thinking that we should, crash or something whenever you play the Seinfeld theme. I always wanted to do that, like similar to Wayne's World, if they play Stairway to Heaven, they stop you immediately and there's a sign. I thought it would be awesome to kind of bake that in to prevent the cliche. Okay, so I'm going to open our repo. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to discuss a few things about MIDI plugins in general and about how we made MIDI plugins in Plugin Buddy. So in Plugin Buddy, the MIDI plugins, they are actually they're actually regular plugins. Like in theory, I could do very, very little adjustments to create these plugins as VST3 or something similar to that. Like I could, they're written as if they're regular plugins, but the way they're registered into the Plugin Buddy list is a little bit different because we didn't want you to have to install. Like for example, when you see here, there's internal the Bud synth, that's an internal plugin. There's an internal Clipper plugin. Hopefully you can see that. It might be a little bit here. So we didn't want you to be able to scan, or we didn't want you to need to scan those to be able to load those. So we wanted you to just have those available, basically as a part of the Plugin Buddy package. And so that means that the way they're registered, and I'm happy to talk about the architecture of that, I guess. Let me move my screen a little bit so that, here you go. So I'm on the side. So the idea is there is a way to register the plugin. So if I'll go to our to the way the code in the repo is, one interesting thing, this is going to be interesting for people who are using Juice, I guess. The way we structure our code in general is we use modules for 99% 99.9% of the code. Like almost all the code goes to a module. That includes both stuff in our library, like reusable code. We write a lot of libraries for different things, libraries that have, helper functions for UI, libraries that have DSP, libraries that have, serializing libraries that have hosting code, like stuff like that. But there's also plugin specific modules. Like for example, I have here in Plugin Buddy, there's a few modules that are specific to Plugin Buddy. Like the UI for Plugin Buddy is a module. The way this, I wonder if I can make it zoom a bit more. I hope the text is readable when I'm doing this. The question is, ever tried coding with your MIDI keyboard? All the symbols and actions on different keys. I know that would be awesome. Yeah, that'd be a great idea. Coding with the MIDI keyboard, like have shortcuts for everything. Yeah. So what was I going to say? Okay, so there's all these modules, but there is a little bit of, basically usually most of the code in the plugin does almost nothing. Like let's take Beat Scholar, for example. There's a bunch of, Beat Scholar has a lot of modules, so complicated plugin, like all these are Beat Scholar modules, right? But then the code for the plugin that's called Beat Scholar itself, it actually does almost nothing. Like it's literally just chaining together, sorry for the red stuff, just because Beat Scholar is not loaded into this project. But what all it does is, you see, it declares what the editor is and what the processor is, and then it chains them together, and that's it, right? So the plugin code, these are like this one file is the only thing that the plugin does in terms of code, and the plugin would do a lot of stuff in terms of like scripts and configurations, another important bit sometimes when deploying software, but most of the code is in a library, and this is actually important because there are many situations where I want to test another plugin with the libraries of this plugin, so it's useful. With Plugin Buddy, it's a little bit different because there's one small thing that I had to put. I don't know if I had to, but I probably don't have to actually. But one thing that I did put in the plugin of Plugin Buddy that is specific is this plugin register thing. And the plugin register is basically this one file that in a way looks very similar to how the different CPP files do, but they just register them into the internal, what they call plugin factory. And this factory is just helpful because we wanted to, it's basically like the factory is basically almost like the list of plugins that you're seeing when you're browsing the plugin list. Before we continue, let's have some nice AI generated music, just so that I won't feel like I'm talking out of complete silence. Let's try another style of random music. Oh wow, it's so bad. There has to be something better than this here. Okay. Okay. So this is how we register the internal ones, and now you're gonna see that. We're going to take a look at one of the existing plugins, specifically the most simple one here, which is a transpose. Transpose is like probably one of the simplest plugins there can be, even though we added a couple of features to this. So the transpose is also just a regular plugin. It's got a bunch of like abstractions that we've added just so that just to save some wording, so that the wordings for this is way less, like the juice stuff in by default has a bunch of boilerplate. We wanted to get rid of that boilerplate. But yeah, so basically all it does is that it forwards this thing to the transpose processor, and the transpose processor is something that keeps track of which note has been already transposed, so it can transpose the note off as well as the note on, stuff like that. There's a little bit of logic in here. We're probably going to run into similar logic now. Okay. So the first thing we are going to do now is one of the simplest effects that you can do just to get warmed up, I guess. And that is going to be a MIDI filter. So let's see, again, it's been requested, and the idea is that it's going to be a plugin that filters ranges of notes, right? So this is sometimes useful if you want to just eliminate something below or above an octave. So let's start to design this plugin. So if I'll go to plugin buddy audio plugins, and I need two things actually. I need the state of the plugin. That's how we usually work. Like usually we would have a shared bit called the states that would have some stuff like the parameters and maybe other things, and the UI is communicating only with the state, never with the processor. This is important because many times we will have multiple processors that use the same state. It's very common. Like many times, like if you think of something like a visualizer, for example. So many times a visualizer would be observing the state, but it would visualize with another processor that's only for the UI. Like let's say I write something like that draws the curve of the EQ for the EQ or something, then I would have another, kind of like a separate processor that would run a test signal through that EQ so that I can visualize the result. I don't need to pass it through the side of the code that actually has audio. So it needs to share the states and reprocess kind of separately, because I don't want to touch the audio that's going through live. If I write an EQ visualizer, I want to see what the EQ is doing. I want to get an impression of it, but I don't want to touch live audio because live music is still being played. I don't want to handle the, I don't want to touch the buffers basically that are being processed live. Okay, so we're gonna let's call this plugin. Let's call this plugin filter. MIDI filter. There we go. Let's add it to the H of the module. Okay, and we can have kind of observe how the state generally looks. I can literally copy paste this, and then I'll go over each and every line that the state has. So as we said, the state, let's call it plugins MIDI filter. And the way the state works, the state usually has this thing called the param list. These are parameters for the clipper. We don't need them, but we would add our own parameters very shortly. And here in the state, you would have other things related to what the plugin needs to store. One of them is this thing called screen. That's like the stuff like the last size of the screen. That's a part actually of the state. You might see here, like if we had a sequencer here, you'd see the entire state for the sequencer being stored here. There's a few different things we can add. The simplest ones usually have a parameter, and in this case a screen, I guess, but that's it. So let's add just for simplicity. Let's start with the simplest way of MIDI filter. It's gonna have let's start with a note filter, right? So it will be something like a filter for the minimum and maximum, and anything below or above that is going to get filtered. So let's try that. So let's do something like let's do how do I call this? Volume parameter. So these are they're all just my types. They're wrapping the juice parameter with additional functionality and less wording, so that I can just do this one single thing. Do something like let's do int parameter. Let's call it min note, and it's going to be called min note. like one of them is the ID and the other is the label that would show up on the DAW. Minimum is 0, maximum is I have this thing called MIDI consts. Max MIDI, that should give me the 127, right? And then the default would be 0. And then the same thing would be for the max. So max note. And this would do max note, max note. But this one, for this one, the default is actually going to be the maximum because the default needs to do nothing. Yeah, and I think I probably need to do it so that this range is included. Yeah, something like that. I forget how the juice range does it, but we're going to find out in a second. So this would have a note, max note, a note, max note, remove this. Good. Now, we would start with this kind of state. Now let's make the plugin. So the plugin is going to be called, here it has plugins, and let's call this MIDI filter. Let's add it to the module list. So header of it. How's everyone doing today? I see a bunch of people joining on YouTube. I see people joining on my Twitter. I'm already also on Twitch, Facebook. LinkedIn. I should be streaming on LinkedIn. Hopefully this gets streamed. I never get like in LinkedIn. I never get like the information on how many people are watching. I don't know why. Yeah, I think it works. Hopefully you're seeing this and it brings some value to your coding and musical life. Okay, next up. So this is not going to be called SVF, it's going to be called MIDI filter. And I just need to inherit from this. So I have, I can probably use all of these. These will be useful. MIDI filter processor inherits from this with the state of the MIDI filter. This should be good. It does accept MIDI. It does produce MIDI, and it is a MIDI effect. Very good. And then the one function that it has is basically process block. I think I have a short for that called process. I think I should be able to use my function there instead. Yeah, here you go. This is just a helper that I made in my base. There's like a chain of bases here. But in my base, what I did was my default process block first of all adds this, which is like you kind of need to do this in pretty much in every plugin. Disable the normals for vectorized operation, for math operations and such, and then it does a few really boring things like update bypass state and things that might be needed, but probably not needed so much here. We're still going to go through with them. Okay, so, and basically what we need to do, in a MIDI plugin is we need to implement this function. Audio, we don't care about. I can just buffer because I have a type def for this. And MIDI, right? So here is where I actually have to process MIDI. Now to do this, I can't really touch this MIDI buffer directly. I need to create my own buffer. Basically, something like a temp buffer. To do, I've added something that I that I usually like to use is I have my own type called MIDI temp buffer. Just it's the same thing as a MIDI buffer, just ensures the size first. So just makes me feel better to know that I've ensured, kind of reserved the memory before we start. And what I'm going to do is usually in every process block, I need to work with this buffer. Basically, I'm going to fill the temp buffer. So I'm going to start with clear. Then I'm going to do stuff, right? Stuff. And then when I finish, then when I finish, I'm going to do something like MIDI swap with temp buffer. So I'm going to keep working with my temp buffer, and then I'm going to swap them around when I'm done. So for example, if I need something that would pass the MIDI straight through, just pass all the notes straight through, I would do something like, for O2M MIDI, and then temp buffer would just add the event with the message and the sample position. Right? That is basically bypass. Right? It's just going to take all the messages, stuff them into the output buffer. I'm going to use this code actually just because it would allow me to test that I'm actually getting something to work. So I'm going to just for simplicity and cleanliness move all that stuff into the CVP. Here it is in the CVP. Why is that an error? Ooh, Silan screwed up my my refactor. Usually doesn't do that, but produces MIDI. Oh my god, what is this thing? Is MIDI effect const override. Oh my god, it's so bad. What is this thing? Void process. Jesus. That should not have happened. Okay, that's better. Okay, so why did I do that is because I wanted to make sure that there's a interface that's clean, that's been included by other classes. So I wanted to kind of separate that. Then here in the CVP, I would have like a little bit of, let's call them private implementation details, specifically on this function that I would probably work on. I want to say hi to Engineer Audio from Jerusalem. Hello, hello. I am very far away from Jerusalem right now, but whoa, what just happened? Did something get cut off? My music stopped. Wonder why. Everything's still working here. Okay. Yeah, I see a lot of people are joining. A lot of people on Twitter as well. Feel free to comment if you're seeing something. If you want to ask questions. So as we said, I'm here writing internal plugins for Plugin Buddy. So I'm going to build a debug version and see. I do need to add this to the registry now. So now that I've finished, so that it would show up on the list basically. So I would need to go to my plugins list. If I would build a VST3, it would just kind of load and scan by the DAW, but it's not going to happen here. I'll remove this. And then let's go to the source for Plugin Buddy, plugin register. And then let's add a function called register MIDI. Don't care about you right now. MIDI filter. And currently this would just do add plugins MIDI filter processor. So this would hopefully register this so that it would show up in the list and we can see what it does, which is currently nothing, but very soon we will make the MIDI filter do something of interest. And then we can start moving on. So this basic MIDI filter thing probably should be called MIDI note filter or something. It's very, very rudimentary, really just something that takes a note range. You can think of filtering other things, filtering velocity range. Something I always need to be mindful of. That's interesting. You only need to be mindful of. There's some plugins that use iLock. Like in this case, previously I was using a plugin called Ivory. It's piano sound. And that plugin, because it uses iLock, it actually stops my debugger from working. So what I need to do is I just loaded Plugin Buddy with no debugger. I'm going to switch to init, close. Now I should be able to debug because the plugin debugger is not going to kick me out. Shouldn't bother anybody who's using it, but should bother me, when I'm debugging it. So it's something to consider. Okay. Then, okay, so now we're good to go. Let's see what happens. So now I should have the internal, do I not see it here? Why do I not see it here? Oh, I didn't give it, I didn't register the right name. So the name, where's my MIDI filter? I also need to say what the name is. I can't just do this. I need to get name. Override this virtual method and say, hey, my name is MIDI filter. By the way, once we finish with this thing, which hopefully is going to be pretty easy, we'll see. It's actually going to be easy. I'm open to suggestions for doing live MIDI like now on the stream, like a live MIDI effect. I thought I would do a couple of other ones. Like one I thought to do is a mono, something that makes your MIDI mono. It's useful if you're playing bass lines. And I thought I would do a scale quantizer. I think those two will be fun projects for today, but I'm open. See if you have any other ideas. Okay, now internal MIDI filter. There you are. Okay, it has this amazing UI, like automatically generated UI. I probably need to make a way so it will default to our internal UI, which I think is nicer looking. I can probably actually do that. You know what? That'll be a cool feature to add actually right now, just because it's be more fun to do. So I think I can do this if yeah. So when I in Plugin Buddy, when I create the editor, because I call create editor by the let's see, I call create editor on if logic let's see exactly when my window is calling it. So I'm doing create parameters editor. Okay, this is good. And then create. Okay, so I can also do. So I would need. So I want basically want to do a fallback. So what I would do is I'm going to change the logic here. I'm going to do that if it's not the generic editor, I can just like auto plugin UI equals slot create editor. But then this would give me, so then if yeah, I should be able to. So I should be able to say if dynamic casting or you know what I'm gonna do, yeah, because I can use my type here anyway, so I can do something like And then if it's not generic editor, set this here. Now, and then I'm going to run a couple of checks on the editor. So I think I'll do that if the editor, if the editor get is basically like dynamic cast. It's like a shortcut in dynamic cast. So if the editor is Juice generic audio processor editor, or the editor is can I find my editor here? My generic editor, right? This also there's a one that my plugin has created. Then just discard this editor basically, or editor reset or something maybe more clear. Reset, and then if the editor is null at this point, then editor. Yeah, so so the idea is that turn editor. So the idea is if this means if the user asked for the generic editor. Oh, no, that's wrong. So I need that. First of all, I need to so if I didn't ask for the, yeah, exactly. If the user asked for the generic editor, it would just go and give them an editor. If they did they had the plugin UI show up, which means this is false, we're gonna attempt to create it, but we're gonna discard it if it's gonna use the built one of the generic editors. And I don't know if many Juice plugins are doing that. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't do this with the Juice one. Yeah, maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe the Juice one, because I'm thinking sometimes we might host another plugin and they use the Juice one. Oh, yeah, maybe I shouldn't mind about that. Maybe I should just use my, because I think my editor is gonna be the default here, right? Not the Juice one. Let's see if I'm right. Is that still my one that shows up by default? Yeah, so I think I should be able to get by without this. Basically, don't allow this editor to be used, which is just for my plugins, really. So the idea is that for my plugins, I'm not gonna let you roll with a default editor, and it only would happen with plugins like the ones I'm creating now, which are GUI-less at the beginning. I just think it would look nicer, and we can definitely get by. With another way I can probably do is I guess I can load, just make this return an null PTR. Yeah, maybe that's a simpler solution, you know? I think this would work. Yeah, maybe, you know what? Maybe I should just remove all this code. Let's just remove, because I think if it's null PTR, yeah, I think I just remove this. I think I've just found a simpler way to do this. I think I can instead just go to my MIDI filter and say create editor and just do return null PTR. Because my default base class is actually creating an editor that's the generic one, but I would like for Plugin Buddy to create it, because Plugin Buddy has a styled generic UI that looks better, I think. Okay, so why did I do this? I wanted to load MIDI filter. Oop. So that didn't. Okay, so I guess I do need to check for null PTR there. Yeah, okay, so I still need to change some logic in plugin body itself, which is probably a good idea because what I just did, actually plugins could, like plugins are actually allowed to return null PTR, like basically say I have no UI. It's legal in the plugin world, so it's probably a plugin body bug that it allows the plugin to just have an empty UI. So I probably need to go back to where it was, to the plugin window. Yeah, so I think that, exactly, so I think, yeah, so I think, yeah, so I need to do the exact same thing, or maybe a simpler version of what I was trying to do before. So I need to do something like, if it's not the generic editor, so then try to create the editor. So if you manage to create an editor, no problem, return that. But if you were not able to, or the user asked for the generic editor, then create a generic editor. This should work, because this, I think, because this means that the plugin has the option to opt out of the UI, and plugin buddy would still know how to adjust to that. Like the plugin buddy would not be confused by this this thing, which is a totally compliant way. Like a plugin is totally fine without a UI in the VST world. So I should be able to do now internal MIDI filter. Here you go. So there's no UI, it just defaulted to this UI, right? I think this is probably better instead of the Juice UI. Fantastic. I want to make this, let's find like a good size for it, something like this, maybe. So those should be easy because I should be able to change those in the state. The MIDI filter state can have, let's make it something longish. Let's do like a 400 and I don't know, 500. I want to make it narrow. 600. I don't know. I have no idea what I did. Make it smaller. 300 and I don't know, 500. I'm randomly just putting numbers in there. Building. Then why is this not enforcing? That's interesting. Why is this not enforcing the UI window? Oh, because it's the generic UI. Because the generic UI actually doesn't do that. Okay, that's fine. It's gonna be fine with the real UI. I don't care about that so much. Okay, so let me just commit this because there's a few things here that I need to commit. So this would have like a plugin buddy. Added initial MIDI filter and defaulted to generic view when loading a plugin with no UI. Okay, that's good. That is finished. Now let's make the plugin do something that is interesting. So we have the process function, and we want to, instead of just passing the MIDI straight through, we want to filter this. So let's start by doing this. So we go through all the MIDI messages. First, we need to extract the message, the actual message, because M, this thing in Juice, it's basically a struct that has two things, the message and the sample position. So first we need to just like O2 message equals message. And now we need to kind of branch on this message. So we need something like, if the message is note on or off, then basically if it's not, let's start with the not case, because if it's not a note, we don't care. We just pass the message straight through. However, if it is note on and off, we have to look at the filter, right? So this filter can be accessed for us. It's called params.minnote and maxnote. So let's do something simple like O2 range is range int that starts from oh, but that's interesting. We also, I think before we did it, we actually have to constrain the range. So let's make a nice function because these parameters can overlap, right? Which is not good. So we need to constrain that somehow. Basically constrain the parameter value so that they don't overlap. So let's do something like range int and do let's do something like get note range const no accept. I like to mark functions called from the audio process no accept. It adds some optimization opportunities for the compiler, because and we know that we don't want to have exceptions in the audio process, so it's a bit more clear. So why do we do this? So the start, and I basically need to pull these from the parameters every time the process block is running. So the start would be parameters min notes get, right? Yeah. So that would be the start. That would be the end. But before this is the max note. So we need to first we need to constrain these, right? So one way to do this is I can make sure that the end. Let's think about this. What I can do is for the start itself, I can make the start with 1. I think that makes sense. The end. I can make it start with 1. And I should not let minnote go to, yeah, because this should be max MIDI minus 1. So because there's no way for you to put 127 for both of them. Okay, so Brian says, hey, cool plugins. I was playing with Beat Scholar yesterday and it was blowing my mind. Awesome. I'm so glad people are enjoying Beat Scholar. Yeah, I'm so glad you did this. The plugin I'm working on now is called Plugin Buddy, and it's free. So, this update that I'm working on now will also be free. So, you feel free to check that out as well. And it also loads Beat Scholar in it. If you'll see the latest video that we posted on our channel, we just had a velocity randomizer added, and there's a great video of Orr where he just put a Beat Scholar pattern controlling another drum plugin inside of Plugin Buddy, and then he just had a randomizer to create all these like interesting patterns. So it is useful. Okay, so this is about Beat Scholar, and then yeah, so I was just getting the range. So what I want to do is I wanted to constrain this range so that there's no way that the end can be above the start. So I think what I would do in this case is I would do that One way to do this, I can reverse the range. Basically, you know, if you try to do like a reversed range, I can just say, okay, well, no problem, I'll give it to you reversed. Maybe that's better. Let's do that. Let's do that. Maybe instead of constraining, or no. Let's do that. If you do a reverse range, I'm just going to give you an empty range. So if start is smaller or equals to end, then just return a range, return an empty range. And otherwise, return a range with start and end. I think this is good. So this is the note range function, and then we do. So if it's a note on and off, yeah. So oh, you know what's interesting? I think there should be a function that says, do you want to pass that range or do you want to filter that range? So that would be another interesting parameter for this. So but first of all, we have to say that if the message dot get note number, because we already know it's a note, so we can say this: if outer range equals get range, get note range. So this is our range. And if the range is empty, or the range contains this, okay, so there's actually a bit more switching to if we do like a filter or pass. But let's sort of just pass those notes. So whatever notes are in range are going to get passed through, and anything other than this is going to get filtered. So yeah, so we're just going to do this. So if either the range is empty or the range contains that note number, then because only if the range is not empty, this will get tested. Yes. Then do this temp MIDI add. Okay. Let's see if this works. Probably need to look at this with a MIDI monitor. And I think I actually have. There should be a way to. Now this parameter is just going to show flat numbers. I think we should make it so that it shows the note name. We should have functionality for that as well. So it would show, you know, C3. C2 and not just 127 or 60 or some number. Okay, so I'm going to use MIDI filter. Here's the beautiful MIDI filter. And let's put a MIDI monitor. Right after this, we can see what it is that happened. Let's play a few. Let's change the size of this, put this here. Okay. Might be too small. Okay. Better. Okay, now everything should be going through. Looks like it does. And let's now filter so that a maximum note, you know, it's 1. So now if this works, and I think it doesn't work. Yeah, I can see that the notes get passed anyway. Yeah. So I have a bug. Let's see what the bug is. First of all, I'm going to close this. I'll reopen it in a second. Temp buffer clear. If the range is empty. Let's see, maybe I'm not giving it the correct range. If start is, oh, no, not start is smaller than end. I'm out of it. If end is smaller than start. So it looks like I was giving it an empty range no matter what. Okay. Let's look at my MIDI monitor. Good, things get filtered now. Let's open the filter. Now there should be, here you go. So now notes are going through. Okay, and let's start a filter down. I think if I remember correctly, I think 24 should be C, right? Should be a low C. Oh, I'm filtering anything below that. Let's filter anything above that. So let's see that. Yeah, empty ranges work. Let's do 24. Yeah, so I need to be, here we go. So I'm filtering these low notes. Nothing comes in now. This should go through. And I'm filtering to, here you go. You can see that anything above that is not going through, right? You can see it in the visualizer, because the visualizer shows the result of all the MIDI combined, right? So that works. Yeah, I think it's a useful enough start. Yeah, that's a useful enough start. So let's commit this. Let's say MIDI filter, added no initial note filtering, and empty range handling. Nice. Okay, that's not bad. How's everyone doing? Are people watching this? People, does anyone have any questions? Trying to think, do I get more coffee? Might want to get more coffee. All right, I'll do a coffee break, and I'll come back and decide what to do. So love the idea of a PB plugin. This is a comment from Peter Jocelyn Harris. Love the idea of a PB plugin to constrain notes within a particular key or scale, and still would love a basic MIDI recorder component someday. I would love to add a MIDI. Maybe that would be the next thing. Maybe I can, maybe we can do that now. Let me think. So, MIDI recorder. Let's talk about that for a second, because that filter is pretty much okay. Let's talk about this, because we maybe this is a project we can do now. So to record MIDI, there are a few interesting things involved. Fortunately, a lot of them already have kind of to do that, but the main thing is that we need to record something in the context of the timing that you recorded, like the DAW timing, because there's a good question, like, would you want that the recorded MIDI would be, kind of modifiable with the host's tempo, or would not? So you probably need to think about tempo sync, which we can do. Like, you want to, let's say you record MIDI on a click. Maybe, maybe when you play back, that you change the tempo. Do you want this to follow the tempo changes or not? So let's talk about this. The other thing is, let's say you record it, unlike a DAW where you have a timeline, we need to think of, like, how do you use that? Like, my initial thoughts about this is you would actually trigger. This would be like a clip. You would re-trigger it, right? Like, you would record something, and then you'd have some button that says play, right? So there's is it playing, and also then is it playing in a loop? Is it playing in a like one shot? Like a sampler gonna go through and that plays it. So let's think about this. This could be interesting, because this is one of these things that are fun, because they can actually be turned into a useful plugin even on their own. Maybe. Let's think of a few basic ways to do this. The simplest way we can do this, like I think the way our MIDI player currently works, like if you open Mindset Drums, the way the MIDI player works is it plays in a loop, and then it plays in a loop, and then you can if you're in DAW, it would just sync to whatever like it's automatically syncs to whatever the host tempo is, which is, I guess, a simple way to do this. Which also brings an interesting feature, I guess, for Plugin Buddy, is that if you want to record something to a click and you're using the standalone, you might need a metronome or something that gives you the tempo. So you have to think about that as well. But yeah, let's think about this. Let's say that I'm going to record. Let's discuss how would MIDI recording works. That's going to be a fun thought process. Because the playback side, as long as we're, I guess, looking at the existing MIDI player that we have already, that would pretty much work. Because I think we can make it to not loop. I think there's an option for that. I need to kind of double check what I'm saying. We can make it. But what do we need to make a MIDI recorder? That would be so. What do we need to do from the processor point of view? Is we need to make sure that everything that gets recorded gets a timestamp assigned to it, because when we get the MIDI note here in this thing called the process block of the plugin, we only get the position within the buffer. Like they say, hey, here's a buffer of 64 samples, and this note was played in sample 35. It says, cool idea for a MIDI looper too, like the product you just referred to. Which product? Oh, Mindset Drums. Mindset Drums has, it's not really a MIDI looper, it just loops the MIDI, right? Like it's not like you record in real time and it does this. But let's think first about what it means to record. This is actually very interesting. So we would need a way to find out during the block. This is gonna be a fun challenge. We can do this right away. Like, we need to find a way during the block to say where the notes are. You know, like, hey, note came in at about 30-second sample of the buffer. Blah, blah. We need to say to find out where that is compared to the host, right? So we can say that, or compared to when we started recording. That might be more accurate. So let's say we started recording at, you know, bar 4 or something like that. Then we can say, okay, well, we've been recording for 3 bars. And the little extra in the buffer, and we know where that is, or something like that. Okay, so the question is, okay, what did I miss? What are we doing? Okay, so we finished the MIDI filter plugin. That was not complicated. But Peter Jocelyn Harris would bring up his comment back in. So the request was to create a MIDI recorder component. And I think this is going to be a great challenge to do for now. I don't know if I can finish the whole plugin, but we can do that. I think it will be a great thing to do right now. So do something that records MIDI. We have to think of what it would mean in terms of the playback. I can already think of a few playback modes. Sync, not synced, looped, not looped, stuff like that. But I think just being able to play the record, so you would need start recording, stop recording, something like that, and then play, and then we need a way to keep track of how the MIDI works. So I think this is going to be a great project for us. Hopefully I can get this done today. There's a question. The question is this a pro feature? No, I don't think it would be a pro feature. Well, I think it could be a free feature. Depends on how deep we want to take it to, but I think it's something we can, you know, as long as I find a way where it's functional enough, like it's simple enough, like maybe I just do one. I don't know. We'll see. Like, because maybe it has a list of clips. I don't know. Let's think of these features as we're building them. There's a question here from Eduardo. Is the latency of the combined instrument, MIDI, and audio effects properly reported to the host? It should be. The question is that the answer is generally yes. Let's see if it happens. You know, let's open Ableton Live. And what I would do is I'm gonna start with having just a regular plugin. Let's see if I can find a plugin that has latency. I think this Pro L has latency. It should, right? Like, let's say Pro L. Pro L reports. Here we go. Okay, so that's good. So let me move myself away so you can see what I'm doing. So we're looking to see if what is this? Okay, so I probably don't need let's move my face to this side, because I think the other side is going to have more interesting things in them. Okay, so what we're checking to see is if Plugin Buddy reports latency correctly. And we're about to find out. So I'm gonna load. I loaded this plugin. It's called. It's a Fab Filter plugin called Pro L2, and that plugin reports. Can you see this, or is my name hides it? Can I move this somewhere? My name might hide exactly the little detail that we wanted to see. Let's just move this over here. There you go. So I don't know if you can see this. It's pretty small, but this says it reports 2,875 samples. That's just this plugin. So that means I'm going to remove this. I'm going to bring in Plugin Buddy instead. And so by default, Plugin Buddy should be reporting 0 samples. Now I'm going to load Fab Filter Pro L2, and Plugin Buddy reports 2875 samples. Let's add another instance of Pro L2. I can do this, for example, by right-click, copy, right-click, paste. And I don't know if you can see this. Hopefully you can. This shows 5750 samples. So I think, to my knowledge, this is correct. So yeah, so it looks like as Eduardo was asking, it looks like Plugin Buddy is indeed reporting correct latencies to the host. So I hope this answered your question, Eduardo. Yeah, so because it's chain, it's gonna combine the latencies of the whole chain. Like it doesn't have any parallel chains, right? So everything gets processed one after the other, so latencies gets added. Yeah, so it does work correctly. By the way, Plugin Buddy is free, so you can just take it and experiment with whatever it can do. You can get it on the Modalix website. There's a link also in the description here. Depends on where you're watching this. Looks like at least this one we get correct. If we had done parallel chains, there might have been a way to sometimes cut that latency, because what you can do is, if we have a parallel chain, you can maybe kind of match, push only a bit of latency and then align them later. But we didn't do that here. There's no parallel chains. Okay. So Peter Jocelyn Harris says, my original use case idea. Let me go back here. My original use case idea was something that would allow me to just buffer an improv session, so that if I play anything cool, I can go back to it and add it. Even in a DAW would be fine. But the recorder ideas you were blue skying are very interesting, and I don't want to stop your freestyling. Yeah, I think we should be able to do that. And because one feature you brought up, which I think is nice, is have a back record feature. So let's say you take the recorder and you didn't click record, right? So you want to be playing, and then you're like, oh, this is good, what I just did. Okay, let's back record this thing. The difficult part about a MIDI recorder in this case is because we have no visible timeline. I mean, we could write a plugin that has a timeline, but so the problem with timeline is that you're not going to see anything. You're not going to see where that is, where it starts. So the visualizing is the challenging part, because with the DAW you see the clip, and here you would not see the clip. So it's we'll have to think of like some way to communicate what happens to you, but it's certainly possible. There's a question. Do you offer educational discounts for other non-free Modalix products? We might. You can email info@modalix.com and tell us the where you are studying or teaching, and we can help you out, I'm sure. I don't want to do live support and sales here, and but yeah, for any kind of business inquiries or sell stuff, just email and we would help you with that. Yeah. Okay, so it seems like Peter likes the back recorder thing. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's get this going. Let's see how much we can iterate on this recorder idea, because I like it. I think I would use it probably. I think it's great. The only thing is, with a recorder, we have to make sure that because it's a Plugin Buddy is free and all that. I don't want to do something that would take me like 2 weeks to do. But if we can think of the let's call it the simpler, practical way to do this, would be awesome. So let's here's what we're going to do. I am going to maybe even before I go into Plugin Buddy, I am going to first of all move my head over here. Good. I am going to I might create a prototype plugin for this. You know what? I want to do, because I think that if I put it in Plugin Buddy, I might add a bit of complications. I think I want to experiment with the idea of this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have Yeah, because something that I could use is I can actually use an infrastructure we already have for this, but but it's not been tested for recording, so we can see what it means. So I'm gonna get out of the plugin buddy project, right? I committed everything here. I think I'm good. Let me go to my prototypes repo. And let's call this MIDI recorder. Yeah, MIDI recorder. We do have like a really silly plugin that could be using this. Yeah, transposer. So I'm just going to create a new plugin from one of my templates. Just be easier to test with, I think, with something not as comprehensive as Plugin Buddy. I think it would be nice to kind of look at the problem abstractly, because I already kind of foresee that it would be less straightforward than what we need here. Let's call this plugin. Let's call this plugin MIDI recorder. I don't need any parameters for now. I might need a few things in the state. So instead of just using a default state, I'll use a struct state. Because there are probably going to be things in this. Processor. Yeah, using a test synthesizer would be good, at least for now, just for testing. So I'll have like some synth. There's a basic like sine wave synth that I'm using by default. MIDI recorder. And I don't need all this stuff. Good. The first thing I probably want to do, just to test that everything works, is actually just to play MIDI. That would be easier to test with just a MIDI file. So I should have a MIDI player. The MIDI player should be in my, if I remember correctly, in my sequencer. Yeah, I mean, the comment is, I just wanted to say thanks for a very useful and straightforward free plugin to allow chaining MIDI effects with instruments without having to create extra tracks. Already possible in, I guess, Bitwig, but not Ableton. Yeah, exactly. And this is exactly the kind of things we wanted to solve. It's one of these things that's not convenient in many DAWs. Ableton Live, it's not convenient. Cubase. And also, even in DAWs where it is convenient, like Bitwig, the problem is you cannot like take the chain of MIDI effects and take it to another DAW or take it to standalone. So we wanted to have something where, you know, even if you're using Bitwig, but you're also, you know, you like to have a chain of MIDI effects with Ableton Live, or kind of save it and load it in Ableton Live, you should be able to do that, right? So you don't want to be limited to just using it in Bitwig. Like I know that, for example, one of the use cases that we see of Plugin Buddy is there are many artists that use Bitwig or Ableton Live when they make music, or Logic, but then they would go out to their producer friend person who's going to use something else, going to use Pro Tools or Cubase, and it's really useful because then they don't have to flat the track. They can give, or they can literally give them, you know, the full chain that they used, and then it, you know, they can kind of collaborate with the same chain. So I think this is cool, even if your DAW is, you know, really supportive of MIDI effects. So yeah, so I'm really glad, Eduardo, that you like this, and you know, we made this free because we felt like this was a pain point. Like there's paid products that try to solve this problem, but we were really trying to make this like accessible. Like, oh, you bought this plugin, you bought Harmony Bloom by Mario Nieto. So you like this plugin and you're like, oh, I want to use it. I want to use it in Pro Tools. I want to use it in Cubase. Like, you don't have to think so much about how you would chain it with the instrument. Yeah, so there is Carla. I don't know so much about Carla, like about the cross-platform of it. I think is this just Linux and Windows, or is it does it do Mac? I don't know. But anyway, there's a few modular environments that let you do this. There's something else really nice called Element. It's another free host. But the thing about these some of these environments is that they're, in my opinion, they're not really straightforward for connectivity, because I think they're a little too modular. But they're definitely sometimes more powerful than what Plugin Buddy can do in terms of routing. And we were very intentionally not doing a modular environment. Like, we wanted something that's like straight up chain. That's where the in to out connections is very simple. Like, we didn't want you to have like an infinite chain of connections that you have to find out where something goes out to in, but more to think of like the simple use case. I've been waiting for a while. Other products are expensive or too complicated. Yeah, I'm really glad you think that way, Eduardo, because that's exactly what we thought. Because we make a lot of MIDI plugins as well, and it's not a problem for us when somebody goes to our store and buys BeatScholar, and then we have to say, hey, if you want to use it normally, you have to either do complicated routings, or you have to buy something like Unify, or you have to buy something like what other plugin does this? I forget. Blue Cat Patchworks, which are all great products, but they cost money. So we didn't want to give people barriers to use our plugins. We wanted to make it more inclusive, I guess. But still, some of these other products like Unify and whatever, they do more things. Like you can create a layer of instruments and stuff like that we're not going to do with the free product. So I think it's there's a trade-off there, I guess, because a lot of work goes into making these products so modular, and but we thought about this from another approach, I guess. Okay, so let's go back to the MIDI recorder. The nice thing about the way my recorder currently works, right? Not my recorder, so my player currently works, is my player. I'm just gonna do this because I want to save as many words as I can in this, just because it's I should be able to use process, no accept, override. Yeah, so back to the recorder. So we were talking about making a MIDI recorder for Plugin Buddy. Hopefully it's not going to be, we can think of a simpler version of this. I'm still processing what's required here. So, but something that I do have, like we already have that, we have a MIDI player. I think, let's see if I remember where it is in the code. I think I need to be able to do something like include a sequencer. Is that right? Where's my MIDI player? Maybe it's not sequencer, it's EA sequencer processor, I think is what we need. The sequencer is basically like a really nice infrastructure we have that's used in plugins like Eon ARP and BeatScholar, but it's also used in stuff like the MIDI player for Mindset drums. The idea is that it's actually it does play MIDI, but it stores the MIDI in a more interesting format, I think, because it stores it in the format, like a format that knows already like the relative timing. So and it has our data structures in it, so you can actually add more information to the recorded MIDI. So it's you can look at this as like a, it's like a slightly more advanced MIDI file, even though it does output MIDI. So let's talk about that. Let's output MIDI or read MIDI files. So I think it's called Sequencer MIDI player. Yeah. So first, so I need two things. Just like a lot of our plugins, there's the MIDI player state, MIDI player, and then there's the MIDI player processor. So it's a MIDI player. It needs to be initialized probably with the state. So state MIDI player. As we said, there's something that's always happens in our code is the separation of states and processing an UI. So the UI is only going to read the state, and the processor, and the state also you would see soon. I think needs like some transport stuff to see if it needs to play or not. That is good. Yeah, and then what this should do, let's load just for simplicity. Let's load a MIDI file. Let's see if I have some MIDI file. You know what? Let's record a MIDI file. This is gonna be more fun. So I'm just gonna go to my Cubase and record a few seconds of MIDI. Or you know what? Let's do something. I'm literally gonna go free. You can probably find like classical music MIDI files. It'll be fun. You probably don't see what I'm doing, but I'm just googling. Let's Google Bach, free Bach MIDI files. I'm not going to use it in the actual product, but it's going to be fine for now for testing. So Bach, let's look at something like invention. This will be just make it fun for me. So I found some websites, and if you're seeing this, I just googled. Oh, let's put this here. I just googled JS Bach free MIDI, and what's the name of the invention in F major? Invention F major. Which one? 779. Does it have that? No. Bach invention. Which one did it say? 779 MIDI. Probably should be able to find it, right? Here we go. MIDI file. Okay, I got the Bach invention. There's a comment here from Peter. Maybe you just treat the timeline issue like a word processor. We are only recording while you're keystroking, but don't bother recording the sounds in between. Yes, and you're actually very correct. And this is really how MIDI files work, right? That's why MIDI files are really small, because they don't need to keep the big timeline of all the silence that came in. It just like says, okay, well, the note started here, and then you don't even have to record the sound, just because you just mark the timelines. And we're gonna do that. Like we're going to make sure that we're just recording. If you will have 10 notes, we would have 10 note ons and 10 notes offs in the recording. But we would also have a little bit of probably a bit of meta information, like which tempo was used for the original recording, because we might want to do something like, yeah, you recorded this in 120, but we might allow you to play it back at 150. Right, some other tempo, because you might be still writing the song. You might still want to make sure that your recorded MIDI match. So it probably would be an option that either play it as is or match tempo, which would work also in Plugin Buddy, because Plugin Buddy has a tempo box. Okay, so I created this plugin. It's called MIDI oh, I need to make sure that it's called MIDI recorder. Let's give it some settings so it knows how to build correctly. MIDI recorder, MDRC, blah 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 blah. MIDI, okay. Let's give it not a standalone, but let's give it VST3. I think I'll use the VST3 version for a little bit to test it in Plugin Buddy, and then only later we would make it internal, because I want to make sure that we can make it simple enough for Plugin Buddy. Okay, so yeah, and I'm going to have the MIDI recorder debug in Plugin Buddy. That's, by the way, one of the coolest features of Plugin Buddy for plugin developers. I love it to develop plugins. It's by far my favorite DAW to develop on, because first of all, it has, unlike other standalone DAWs, it has time aspects, but also I think, you know, it's so easy to create like a nice simple chain before your plugin, after your plugin. I think it's a very useful way to test your plugin development, even if you're not, you know, like me, also developing Plugin Buddy itself. Okay, here is Plugin Buddy. Oh, here we go, missing plugin. I love that it works, by the way. So let's start with the init preset. Oh, this has to be, oh, can you not unload this? This is a bug. I need to replace it, I guess. So let's replace it with something else and then unload it. This is a bug. All right, so let's load a MIDI effect now. Let's rescan. Something nice that notices that we have one of the things some DAWs do, or some of these like plugin hosts do, is that if you scan and the plugin, you have a plugin that crashes, it's going to take down your DAW. And here, a plugin actually might crash, and it's not going to take down Plugin Buddy or the DAW with loaded Plugin Buddy in it. Okay, so let's load MIDI effects. It's called in Modalics. Called MIDI recorder. Look at this amazing UI that it has, right? This beautiful UI. Okay, that's great. Now, okay, so we got it compiling. I probably can have, let's have some synth. Let's just use the built-in synth. Great. Okay, let's load this MIDI file. So I should have that MIDI in my downloads. Bach Invention thing. Let's put it on the desktop. It's called Bach Invention. Okay, let's load. First, I'm just going to load it in the MIDI player and see if we can load the file. So when I initialize the state here, I'm going to do a MIDI player set file. Files get on desktop. This. And now when I'm processing this, I should also do MIDI player process. MIDI, oh, I also need a transport. So it's called transport. Transport, I think, needs to be prepared as well. It needs to know what the sample rate is. It's our block. And the transport needs to be processed with the playhead and the number of samples. Then the MIDI player can work with the transport. This basically knows to create a transport object that has all the musical timings in the buffer. The processor, okay. I think this should work. Let's have a look. If I remember correctly, the default of the MIDI player states, oh, maybe it's not active by default, so we might need to make it active. MIDI player active, true. And active, true, playing true. Okay, so I think both of these are needed for the sound, for the MIDI to play. Here we are. Okay, so first of all, the player works, and this is good. Let's go back to my stream window here. So let's not use the synth. Let's use something more fun because I want to have fun. Let's use what do I have here? That's gonna be fun and not kick me out for not having. Sorry, for the iLock thingy. Let's use Keyscape maybe. Use Keyscape. Let's see, or let's use what synth would be fun. It has. I want to hear the dynamics. This is interesting. Let's just use Keyscape. Keyscape and let's open. Yeah, let's just take the piano. So let me mute the AI music here. And I hit play in Plugin Buddy. Did that come out correct? Oh. Settings. Let's change the BPM. Velocity curve of this. Don't you just love Bach? Bach is so awesome. That's a velocity randomizer. That's just for fun. Velocity randomizer. Just to add some humanized feel to this. So beautiful. Okay, so first of all, we got this, the MIDI player works. Let's close this and let's by the way, something nice. This is actually gonna, because the way Plugin Buddy works, this is actually saving our chain, so I can now just hit play and it would immediately load Plugin Buddy with my chain, with the plugins, with the keyscape loaded with Velocity Curve. So it's really nice for debugging this little player thing. Okay, so we got the MIDI player. What we don't have yet is a recording feature, right? This is the part that we, well, we could also think of the player itself as a feature because you could be able to load MIDI. But let's talk about what it would mean to record something into this. So the way the MIDI player works, let me read this because it's been a while since I've read that code. So when we set a file, yeah, so here's what happens. Whenever this gets created, this actually saves, it creates this thing called a note list. Note list is actually, it's really, it stores, it's very close to the MIDI, to the format of MIDI. Yeah, it's very close to the format of MIDI, really. The thing that it doesn't have, and we would need to think about this, but I don't think this actually has support for stuff like, you know, MIDI CC. Like, I don't think this would support wheel events or something. You probably need it to support these things, and I think it's would be good to add. That would be interesting because we can use this for the player, which is probably good. You know, there's a lot of things already happening in the playback engine here to do with what happens when you replace the MIDI, whatever, load another MIDI. I think that's good, but this would now be pretty rudimentary because it does not have the MIDI CC. How can we deal with this? Node events. Node events is a vector of node event. Can a node event be a MIDI CC? I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's supported. Yeah, let's start by ignoring MIDI CC just for now, but I think having MIDI CC support is going to be important. You know, you're recording and you're using your pitch bend or mod wheel. I think we need to record those as well. We're just not, just because this MIDI player was not created with the thought of being a general purpose recorder, but we can make it to be one, I believe. Let's see, how can we do this? So we need let me think about this. I'm not sure our current system supports this, because we need a way where, so here, during notes input of this recorder, we need to immediately assign a musical time for each of them. And I actually think we actually know that, because I think transport has that. Like, if I'll go to the transport and I'll do something like get sample position. Is that what it is? No. Transport that I have something in my transport object. It should give me, oh, here you go. So it's just this square brackets thing. This gives me the sample time. So I think this should translate the sample time into musical time, and should be something storable in MIDI, in my opinion. So let's see, just for simplicity, what I would do is I would take every note that comes in. I'm going to store the musical time of that note on and note off. And I'm just going to store it in a list. And then when you hit stop, I'm going to push that MIDI. I'm going to push it as a MIDI file into the player. Yeah, I think this will be a good thing. So let's. This is a very simplistic way of doing MIDI recording, but I would start with that. So let's call it something like struct recorder, so so the recorder would need to, like, there would be a process function here, and that would take the MIDI buffer. It should even be a const buffer, because I don't really need to const MIDI buffer. And then it would also need what I call transport view. And then it would need it also needs to know when have we started recording, because recording is really relative to the start. So whenever we started to record, we need to kind of hold on to that position and then say, when you record, blah, 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 it's going to all come back to this, so that when we play it back, we have basically the beginning of the clip. Another way, I don't know, we can also record from the first note, but maybe that doesn't make sense, because you might record from the middle of the bar. Yeah, I think we have to somehow I think we have to preserve the starting position. And we can also find like a quantized starting position that might also be good, like always record from zero, from the beginning of the bar, or the beginning of the beat. I don't know. So we need like a start position, start pause. And here what we need is a MIDI buffer, or whatever I call this thing, MIDI. Yeah, let's call it a MIDI buffer. Let's call this something like recorded. And I think we need that whenever we call. Let's also recorded dot. Let's do something like what's called ensure size. Let's have some 10,000 notes or something in there. Is that bytes or notes? Never know. Ensure size bytes. Yes, I probably need, I don't know, 100,000. I don't know, a lot of bytes. And then when we're processing this, let's do. So we need a way to start recording. So it's going to be like start, and start would have. Basically, when we're going to start, it's going to do like recorded clear. And then, and then, I can just take the transport or something like const transport. Maybe just do const transport view transport. And this would be something like start pause equals transport get. I think this is correct, right? Get start. Yeah, get start should give me the start of the block, basically. But you're gonna assume that we're deciding at the start of the block. Clear the recorded things. Okay, and then if we're stopping, because start is gonna immediately clear what we recorded before, and then we can do stop. So also need to wait to know if we're being recorded. So it's like recording equals false, and then start would do recording equals true, and stop would just do recording equals false. They also need to know the end, right? Because when we stop, I need to know exactly when the end is. So I also need that. So I need that something like end pause, right? So when we stop, then the end is equals to transport dot get start. So we have the position, let's get some music happening here. Okay. Okay, so what the process is going to do, it's literally just going to go over the MIDI messages. And then, so basically, I think if we're not recording, just return. Just no need to bother doing anything here. If we are recording, then we need to do something like yeah, so the sample position is going to be transport. Can I use this thing to get, to have like the square bracket thingy? Yeah, I have that. Okay. So this is really the sample position. So it's because this is the sample position in the buffer, but we need the sample position, the musical position. So this is the musical position in the song, and then it should be minus start position. I think this is correct. And then we can just record it, add event with get message and the position. I think this is basically the recording, like the most simplistic recording of MIDI events. Hopefully this is correct. I've not thought about this too deeply. This could be const reference if you really want to. I hate that const reference is not a default in C++. Okay. And then we would need a way to basically, once we're finished with this, push this recorded buffer into the player, I guess. Or we can use another type of player. That's another option. Like we can say that instead of using this player, like the the built-in player, we can use another type of player to play this. Oh wait, I'm completely out of this. We cannot use this. This is a sample number. No. We cannot do this. We have to have this be stored as something more. Yeah, this can be stored as in sample information. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I think we have to create the sample information when we play it back. So yeah, so I think we have to do something more. Yeah, I think we need something like I think we can. For now, we can probably get by with a vector of MIDI messages. Because I think MIDI message does take that exactly double timestamp, so we can probably abuse that a little bit. So let's start. So messages dot reserve, and then message is clear. So this will just message. Let's create. Does it have a constructor that takes the MIDI message? There's this thing with is this copying? Yeah, this copying. Okay, should probably be okay. So I could. Is there something that takes just a MIDI another MIDI message? Is there a constructor that does this? Here you go. MIDI message, new timestamp. Okay, that's good. So I can just do get message pause. This should maintain this position of the message. And now that once we finish with this, there should be a way to convert this back into like actual MIDI for playback. So let's see, how do we do start and stop? One way I can make a parameter for record and play, I guess, but I would need additional information because I need to make sure that yeah, let's do that. Let's do now, so that I would have something like that'd be confusing. Yeah, let's do something really simplistic. It's not probably the way I need to construct this for real, but I'm just going to have a choice parameter. Let's call it mode, and the modes would have it would be like mode string array get modes, and this would return stop, record, stop, record, play. And then get modes 0. Okay, so this would give me all the modes for stop, record, and play, and then I think what I would do, this is a very simplistic way of doing this. I would just only do something if it changes. So what I would do is, just for now, I would do something like enum class modes stop, record, play. Let's do something like modes get mode, return modes mode get. So I would convert this to the enum, and then I would do current mode equals modes stop, and then in my processor, sorry, not here, mode, and then when I start, I would do something like if params get mode isn't equal to mode, to current mode. Wait, the other way around. If the current mode so let's do something like, I'll do param mode, because I don't want to pull this twice. This is an atomic. If they're not the same, then current mode equals param mode, and then switch the param mode. Give me the cases, please. Not the default cases, but the other cases. If it's stop, then MIDI player or recorder should be here actually. Recorder. The recorder stop, transport, break. If it's the record, then recorder start, transport. And if it's playing, then you might do other things in here. Yeah, let's make the MIDI player, sorry, state MIDI player active equals false. So in each of those modes, stop the MIDI player, and with this mode, make it true. But we also need to load the file here, so this would also have some, and we probably don't need to load the file actually in this thread, but we would do this now, even though this would allocate a chunk of memory and be very, very bad and cannot be used in a real plugin. It would be okay just to test that we've managed to record. So what we need is a way, and we would later do this in a threading, like a safe way, threading wise. But I would start with a very simple thing that's going to be called get MIDI file. I think this requires a thing that calls juice MIDI message sequence. And then for O2 messages, add event message, and yeah, I think you just take the message. And then return. Okay, so this should give me, the MIDI file. I think, is this what my MIDI player requires for now? Oh, it doesn't. So it needs some way to. How do I get the? Maybe it's not using MIDI file. Maybe I actually need to save it as a file for now. Doesn't sound correct. I did something that loads it from a binary. Oh, here it is, the binary. I think this would work. Oh, here you go. This is probably what needs to be changed. So shared binary, yeah. So it gets the data. Yeah, this is probably what I need. So I think shared binary. I think that's the one. What I was calling this. Yeah, I think this is correct. So what I need to do, but how do I actually load it? About this, how do I load it for now? Because it looks like when I'm saving a file, I'm literally just saving this like this, and then I think probably the processor does this and not the state. I think the processor yeah, I think here's what happened. The processor listens to this data Yeah, that's how it works. Listens to this data, and then where's the listener here? Here it is. Oh, it just pushes. So data push to the slot. So when does it know that it needs to change stuff in the slot? So it should convert the thing to messages. Oh, okay. Update sequencer. This does this, I think. Right? Is that what they're being called here? Load from. Okay, this is, I guess, where it happens. Yeah, this would just load the notes, I think, but I think it should work because it should load from the binary info binary or. Oh, right, because resource itself knows that it's a different kind of binary, I think. Yes, I think that's how this works. So I think it should have, if I understand correctly, it should have no problem parsing this if this is a file that we recorded. We just need to add some conversion. Set binary, or where is this thing? Set file. Yeah, I need another function here, really. So we also need to call updates. So I need to add something called set MIDI file or something. Const juice MIDI file. Let's compare this with the set file implementation. I don't need to check if it can. I don't need this thing. I just need basically this. But I should be able to get like the raw data of this, right? How can I? Oh, stream. Stream sounds good. Yeah, I think this can actually work. So I should be able to use binary, juice. I think there's a memory block actually. Memory block, and then juice memory output stream that should write into the block. True. And then file write to stream. And then from here, I should be able to do something like, oh, here it is. So just like a set block. Const memory block to use. And this would be the name, I guess. What's it like a const string name equals binary. Name to use, maybe? Name to use. String file. It's fine. Create a new memory block with this other block. I think this should be okay. The data should already be there. Okay, so back to the MIDI player thing. Set block. Okay, and then from our processor, what we're going to do is, I think right now it's in the most rough way. If we change into stop mode, then I'm going to state set MIDI player set block. It's a binary. No, set MIDI file from the recorder. Get MIDI file. This is really rough. You should not do this in real code. This is very much for my testing purposes. Let's see how far I am from getting this to work. Maybe it works. Who knows? Also, I have a suspicion that this actually might not work correctly if the DAW is not playing. We need to think about that issue. It might not be supported right now. It might only work when DAW is playing, because then the transport is actually moving forward instead of being stuck in the same position. Okay, recorder, moment of truth. I'm going to hit record, then stop. Ooh, this is me trying to block myself from doing exactly what I'm doing because it's allocating memory and whatever. However, play. Oh, I think I needed to record while I'm doing that, so let's record. 1, 2, 3. Stop. I'm gonna get the assert. Don't care about the assert. And then play. No. Oh, that's funny. I forgot to call process. Okay, that's nice. What I would do first. Let's change this. Let's do two things. First, let's make the assert not happen by doing again something you should not do. Do not do what I'm doing. It's not safe, but you know, it's not fine for now. I should be able to just copy the recorder, right? I can allocate a chunk of memory and just copy it. Yeah, there's nothing uncopyable there, so I can do something like copy funk equals let's do this. R equals recorder. Like I'm literally going to copy the full recorder. Yeah, just copy this and then call async. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm really gonna stop, right? Yeah, stop is stopping it, putting this in there, okay. And then copy funk. So I'm gonna call this on the message thread instead. R recorder, so it's a copy. And then the one thing I forgot to do, of course, is recorder process the transport, because otherwise it just doesn't record anything. Oh, I need to open the scope here because I am not allowed otherwise to create new variables. Okay, play. That's Bach. Okay, and then stop, record 1, 2, 3, stop, and play. No, what did I miss? What did I miss? So I'm going to recording. Here's the recording. And hopefully it didn't shut down all of my audio. Might have. Hopefully you can still hear me. Because it stopped my some of my playing audio. Position equals blah 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 blah. What is the position here? 2 dot. Yeah, that looks fine. Messages create. That's good. Okay. Oh. I've used this thing before. Let's see, there's a couple of like, I guess awkward syntax things I need to do with this. Oh, here you go. There's like time format stuff. I probably need to deal with that as well. Thank you, Peter. Really appreciate you sticking around and watching this. I actually might probably need to go for a few things. So I might not get to finish this in this stream, but I might yeah, continue this later. Let me commit what I'm doing. Yeah, I guess I'm getting too tired. Right, well, thank you everyone for watching, and I will come back for another stream maybe later. Have a good day.